Picture this. It's 1943. Somewhere in the American South, the sun hasn't come up yet. A man rolls out of bed in the dark. He doesn't check a phone because there is no phone. He puts on his boots, the same pair he's been wearing for 2 years. And before he leaves for a job that will pay him a fraction of what the white man next to him earns, he does one thing first. He walks his wife to the bus stop, not because she asked, because the streets aren't safe for a black woman alone before dawn. He stands with her in the cold, watches the bus pull up, watches her step on, and then only then does he go to work. Nobody films it. Nobody posts about it. Nobody calls him a good husband for doing it. He just does it every single morning, because that is what love looked like before we gave it a caption. That man and that woman, they'll be married for 53 years, and they weren't unusual. They were normal. In the 1940s, black marriages didn't just survive. They were among the strongest family structures in America. More than 75% of black children were born into two-parent homes. The divorce rate was staggeringly low. These couples held together through Jim Crow, through poverty, through a country that was engineered to crush them. And somehow, against everything, their marriages didn't just last. They became fortresses. So what did they know that we forgot? The front porch. It started before the wedding. It started on the porch. When a man wanted to court a woman in the 1940s, he didn't slide into her messages. He came to her house. He sat on her front porch. Her father was inside. Her mother was in the kitchen with the window cracked open just enough to hear every word. The neighbors could see him sitting there back straight, hat in hand, speaking carefully. And here's what that porch did. It made him serious. You couldn't fake your intentions when the entire block was watching you court a woman. Your behavior would be reported at church on Sunday, discussed at the beauty parlor on Monday, and judged by every elder on the street before the week was out. The front porch didn't just protect the woman, it built the man. Before he ever said "I do," he had already been tested not by her, but by everyone who loved her. And if you passed the porch, you were ready for the marriage. Because that porch taught you from the very first evening that love begins with accountability, not convenience. The house was never empty. Now, imagine they got married. They didn't move into an apartment alone with a ring and a dream. They moved into a full house. Grandma was down the hall. An uncle was in the back room. A cousin was sleeping on the couch. That house wasn't big, but it was full. And that fullness wasn't a burden, it was architecture. When the young couple had their first real fight, the kind that shakes you, the kind where you want to pack a bag and leave, there was an elder 10 feet away who had already survived that exact storm 40 years ago. She didn't post advice online. She sat the wife down in the kitchen and said, "Baby, let me tell you something." And the grandfather pulled the young husband aside on the porch and said 3 sentences that changed how he saw the whole argument. Today, couples face every crisis alone, behind a closed door, with no one to call but a stranger on a helpline. In the 1940s, the help was already in the house. The marriage wasn't carried by just 2 people. It was held up by a village that lived under the same roof. Sunday morning, and every week, that village came together around 2 things: church and dinner. Sunday morning, he's wearing a pressed suit. Dark fabric, clean lines, pocket square, folded just right. She's beside him in her finest dress. Gloves on, hat tilted at an angle that says she knows exactly who she is. They match. Not because a stylist told them to, because she pressed that suit with her own hands on Saturday night. Because he saved for 3 weeks to buy her that hat. In a world that stripped black people of dignity at every turn, Jim Crow buses, segregated water fountains, jobs that paid half of what they deserved, a black couple walking to church in coordinated outfits, was a revolution made of fabric. It said, "You will not reduce us. Look at how we carry ourselves. Look at how we honor each other." And when they got home from church, the table was already set. Fried chicken, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, cornbread, sweet tea. The food took all morning. And it wasn't just food, it was a language. Every dish said, "I take care of this family." Sunday dinner was where children learned to sit still, say grace, and watch how their parents spoke to each other with respect even when they were tired. Where grandparents told stories that carried history forward, where the arguments from the week dissolved into shared bread. If you wanted to understand why a marriage lasted, you didn't study the couple. You studied their Sunday table, the secrets nobody named. But the deepest secret, the one that really separated that generation from ours, wasn't any single tradition. It was the way they understood love itself. They didn't marry for happiness. They married for purpose. A family, a home, a legacy. Happiness was a byproduct, not a prerequisite. When happiness faded, and it always does, temporarily, they didn't question the marriage. They questioned the season. They knew, with the calm certainty of people who had watched their own parents endure far worse, that hard times were not a signal to leave. They were a signal to hold tighter. And sacrifice wasn't something they resented. She wanted a new dress. She bought him work boots instead. He wanted to keep his pay for himself. He handed it to her on Friday for the children's school supplies. Neither of them kept a ledger. Neither of them tracked who gave more. Because in the mathematics of survival, two people pulling in the same direction will always travel farther than two people calculating who owes what. Their love language wasn't words. It wasn't gifts. It was showing up. Every morning, without an audience. Without performance. He walked her to the bus stop in the dark. She pressed his suit on Saturday night. He handed over his paycheck without being asked. She raised 4 children in a house with no air conditioning and never called it a sacrifice. Because to them, that wasn't sacrifice. That was just what love did. Love in the fire. And here's the part that stuns me every time I think about it. They did all of this. The devotion, the patience, the showing up inside a country that was trying to break them. Every single system, housing, employment, education, justice was designed to degrade them. A man came home humiliated from a job that paid him half his worth. His wife didn't need him to explain. She already knew. She handed him supper and sat with him while he was quiet. A woman was treated as less than human at the house where she worked. She came home to a man who looked at her like she was everything. The marriage wasn't an escape from the world. It was the fortress against it. Every single day, their love was a statement. The world can strip us of everything except how we love each other. That kind of love doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in fire. And the couples who walked through that fire together came out fused. Not just bonded, alloyed, made stronger by the very force that was supposed to destroy them. What we lost. And here is where the story turns sad. Because somewhere between the 1940s and now, we lost almost all of it. We lost the porch. Courting became swiping. We lost the full house. Independence replaced interdependence. We lost the Sunday table. Family dinner became an optional event between individual schedules. We lost the community that held marriages together, the elders, the church, the neighbors who noticed when something was wrong and stepped in before it was too late. We lost the understanding that love is a verb, not a feeling. That it's something you build like a house, one board, one nail, one day at a time, not something you fall into and hope it lasts. We lose these things because they were banned. We lost them because we got comfortable, because options multiplied, because leaving got easier and staying got lonelier, because nobody sat us on a porch and taught us what our great-grandparents knew by instinct. The blueprint remains. But here's what gives me hope. The blueprint is still there. In the stories they told. In the letters they saved written by hand, folded in boxes, kept under beds for 50 years. In the Sunday dinners that somebody, somewhere, is still cooking right now. In the quiet act of walking someone you love to the bus stop before the sun comes up. We didn't lose the knowledge. We just stopped passing it down. So let me ask you something. Which part of this story made you stop? Which part made you think about a couple you knew? Maybe your grandparents. Maybe your parents who stayed when the world gave them every reason not to. I genuinely want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments. And if this one sat with you a little longer than usual, if it made you feel something you haven't felt in a while, subscribe. We tell stories like this every week. Not lists, not lectures. Stories about the people and the traditions that built us. And I'll see you in the next one.